Hey everybody, welcome to my world with Nat. I hope you're doing great today. I have been waiting so long to do this video. So excited to have Sean Bennett with me from ISLA Academy, where Adele goes to school. So a lot of you have already seen some video here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
I guess I want to get started. I want people to know who you are, like how this all got started, because I'm already a fan, so I don't have to be sold, but tell us, how did ISLA, this concept come to life?
Well, I've been teaching internationally for a long time. I taught in the States, I taught in South Korea, Vietnam, Tanzania, and I was hired from Tanzania to be a part of this, the founding administration of a gifted and talented public school here in the DR, a very small town.
Okay.
I had been a middle school counselor, I'd been a university professor, been a kindergarten teacher, I'd done it in many countries. I got here and worked in this public institution, and things started to click to me that there are these universals, no matter where you're at in the world, no matter what age you are, that are functioning. And I had learned that changing these jobs year after year meant that I had to kind of do certain systems that worked for me, right?
Yeah.
So while here with that public school, I had this dream of starting a school here, and I was naive enough to think that if we opened it up, that everyone would come.
They would come.
Yeah.
If you build it, they will come.
Yeah. I searched around. I found this property. It was way out of my budget, and I knew that this was the one. And so I opened it up to after-school programs, to kindergarten, we had a few kids sign up for that. And then I opened up this crazy program and I just said, hey, if you're homeschooling and you don't want to stay in the house, come up here, because I had these empty classrooms and I thought we got to have kids up here, right? Well, I ended up having kids from 7 years old to 16 years old.
Oh, wow, okay. That's a big range.
Big range. And, how do you do that, right? How do you teach 7-year-old, 9-year-old, 15-year-old at the same time? Well, it turns out you can't, really.
No.
You can't teach them content. You have to teach them how to teach themselves. If you're ever going to have any time to sit with them one-on-one, you're going to need the other students to be engaged.
Yes.
So, working with a curriculum coordinator, we built a very inquiry project-based style. And over the course of that year, our school got up to really small, 22, 24 kids. But the very next year, having no grade levels, no classrooms that were fit just for kids at Adele's age or other grades, all these parents started coming from all levels. I mean, all levels, right? And they wouldn't come in a normal school. You would say, how many fifth graders are there? How many kids? But ours was not like that. I said, I'll have you a group between 8 and 15, and that'll be what it is. And I can't promise you how big the class or what the range will be, but this is what it is. And we had 90 kids show up. And so here we are. Then we had to figure out how to fill in the gaps.
And as a new parent to the school, I fully admit I wrote to the teachers this year saying, can somebody explain to me how does this work? Because coming from a traditional background, and I believe Adele went to a very good school back home, but it was more traditional. And this is she's so independent here. She tells me about the things she does all day long, and she's guided in a way and that's what we wanted for her when we decided to do this. We wanted her to embark on her own adventure of learning, and we wanted it to be different, because if we wanted traditional, we could get that pretty much anywhere.
Yeah. The word traditional is interesting because when we say traditional, we are meaning the last 100 years of education.
Absolutely, and I don't know if there's a better word to use, but that's the one I'm running with, because that's what it feels like.
I get it, and a lot of people will say that, but when I point out that true traditional education is actually a bit more closer to this, maybe without as much integrated technology, but certainly where you had these traditional school feels like a one-room schoolhouse, right?
Yes.
It feels like there's the one teacher who's with all these different grade levels, right? And you're focusing on life skills. I would say here, because we kind of threw away the entire concept of there being 15 to 25 kids, all of the same age and the same grade level, putting kids in a mixed grade meant that no teacher could show up here and say, I know everything about third grade, I'm just going to read from this book. You've got to teach independence, or it will not function. You also have to recognize that every kid has different needs. We have kids from 35 countries here at this school. they come in at the same age, but that doesn't mean anything.
No.
They're speaking different languages. They're at different standards. They're being evaluated, and so first and foremost, what we're trying to do is teach kids to love learning. Number one, because we believe with that positive attitude, they'll be able to do what they want. Also, the other thing that's very unique about our school is that at any point, including Adele or any other person, could go back to their home country. And when you say their home country, we're not in New York or Toronto or Paris preparatory school. We are preparing our kids to go back anywhere at any time.
Because we have graduates really who have gone to everywhere.
Yeah, Australia, Holland, Canada, Mexico, Costa Rica, US. We have a kid in Boston College now.
That's
kids in Spain and Germany.
It leads to essentially the same opportunities had they stayed in their local school.
Well, I think it's better opportunities because when you're applying to a university and the university is trying to determine whether or not you're prepared for their school, they're looking for some of the skills that what would traditionally be called homeschoolers. They're looking for that in these students. And also, if you educate yourself at an international school or even in your traditional school in Canada, if you're trying to go somewhere else, it's one thing if you grow up in Ontario, you go to school there, and then you're trying to go to college there. Obviously, those public schools are like funneling.
They're
kids.
funneling,
But that's not what's happening in an international school. Our students are going to try to go everywhere. And Adele may tell you that she wants to study in China, in Singapore, in Chile. And so when she applies to these schools, she's applying as an international student. And your way to
listen to this, folks.
Yeah, your way to show that she
showcase,
that she's a top international student. It's, I don't want to say grades don't matter, but it's really like everyone's showing up with high grades worldwide.
Absolutely.
So there's no real way to validate that. There are a few things you can do. There's some standardized exams you can do. Things like the SAT and the ACT, advanced placement courses, which many of our high school students can do. You can even go ahead and start doing college credit while you're in high school. Some of our students have done that before. And with these things, now a university from Argentina can look at a Canadian girl who's studying in the Dominican Republic and say, you went to this place, not to just some private school.
I guess what that leads me to ask is, do children here get graded like they would? Yeah, they do.
So,
there's some type of grading system.
So there's do I wish we did or do we? So again, one of the limitations is that at any moment, any one of our kids could go back anywhere, right?
Yes.
And so when you're trying to prepare someone to go anywhere, they need to be taking documents that anywhere will accept. First and foremost, we create documents that the Dominican Republic will accept, but also we know a lot of our kids are from North America or from Europe, and the vast majority of schools are still looking for ABC 0 to 100 type of lettering. There are countries that have different, but even those countries have a sort of equivalency. They understand what an 85 is. So we deliver that. How do we measure students? Well, there's two ways. One, we use standards-based grading, so we take a student where they're at, we give you real facts about where your child's reading at, where they're working on in math. We do not take a child who's in 4th grade and force them only to do 4th grade math. If they need the standards that are in 3rd, we'll start there. And then we'll deliver that in a narrative form in the report. But when we're reporting, we have this set of 22 criteria as well that we use. These criteria came from one of the schools that we're affiliated with in the U.S. That accredit some of our students' diplomas and transcripts. And those criteria include things such as mastery of material, which is obvious, but also things like organization, enthusiasm, ability to make connections between subject areas, organization, and so on. If a student can be at a very high level for between 7 and 10 of those 22 criteria, then they're going to get an A. An academically superior kid is going to meet that level. A very enthusiastic, hardworking kid is going to meet that level too. A combination of both is obvious.
I feel like you've answered so many of my questions already. So what is the, there are particular uniqueness about the school, and we're going to walk around after, but you cater from a very young age.
2 years old.
2 years old. And was that in the original plan, or is that just sort of
Yes and no. So
happened?
our first year we only accepted 3 and up, and then in our second year, and why do we accept 3 and up? My daughter was 3 at the time, so that was part of it. But
Yeah.
the second year, I hired 2 wonderful women who are like the rock of this school, and both of them had young children.
Okay.
And I had already I was looking for a solution for that, for child care. My own child at that time was quite young, and my second child was quite young. And all of a sudden, we had enough families that we organized
to
preschool
create
that year.
I love it.
Yeah, that one came. Our preschool class was the last class technically that we had.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And have many of the children from there, like obviously your daughter has come up through the ranks, as many others?
So, many kids have been here from beginning of their time through. We've only been in existence for 7 years. Last year, many of our founding students they graduated.
They did, yes.
But some of because a lot of those were like 7th grade when they joined us. There's a few other kids, I think there are 4 still, that were here from day one. There's a lot of kids in that second year, the big wave that came that have been here a long time. That would be maybe 15 or 20 more.
Yeah.
But also Cabarete and Las Terrenas, where our other campuses are
Yes.
incredibly transient places. So
Absolutely.
sometimes you have a family, you're sure they're going to be here forever, and then they move back somewhere. The pandemic
take a break.
was an effect on that, and you know.
Yeah, well, I think everybody's affected by that for sure.
We've had a few kids actually recently come back.
Oh,
so they
interesting.
They
went
went
back
to Canada, they went to France, they went wherever, and now
and
they've
then
returned.
they've returned back. Okay.
And those are probably pandemic related. You know, they left and came back.
So if you had to share your top 3 things about the school, there's a parent watching and they're like, what do I need to know? What are those top 3 besides all of the great stuff you've already shared? But what do they need to know? Do they?
What it's like?
What it's like. What is it that will make them maybe jump the fence and go, okay, I need to come talk to Sean.
Okay,
now.
well I'll tell you one thing that I remember saying in this open house ceremony that we had that first year when everyone showed up in this community. I think it's pretty unique when you're living abroad and you choose an international school, and that is, if you choose ISLA, you are sure that the teachers and the administrators know your child.
That's true.
I mean,
that's true.
I worked in international schools for years prior to this, and I bounced around as many, and that's no fault on the school or a reduction in quality, but it is true that international schools are very transient. It's not like your hometown school where you know who your child will be going to 6 years from now.
Yeah.
Here, we're incredibly lucky to have, a very stable team, and also we keep this school small enough that, every single kid, every parent, we get to know very well. Another thing that happens, actually, that's probably a big difference from us and maybe other schools that look like us online, if you start researching schools that maybe are just as green as us, or maybe also do a lot of project-based learning, you'll see that a lot of times they don't have a high school.
Oh, okay.
It's much easier to just...
I guess, yeah.
It's much easier to not have to provide that type of stuff. You can just go, hey, when you're 12, you can go find something else. And here, that is one of the big challenges, that we had to create a system that builds these kids up to.
Well, I think
functional
too.
adults.
I think for the younger kids, it's good to see the older kids that example for sure. And even the middle grades for the younger kids to see them. So definitely. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and also if you're really gonna move to a community like Cabarete or Las Terrenas, and you're considering, purchasing a house or starting a business, you don't want to be told that when your kid's 14, you've got to move. But that is the case in some places.
Yeah.
When you're starting to think. So it creates a lack of an ability to invest in real community,
Absolutely.
And then the other thing is really how we function, and we operate from 2 years old to 18 years old in these 6-week units called units of investigation. Every unit is anchored by an idea called the big idea, all math, art, science, English, everything that we do.
I'm getting it. I'm starting to understand it.
Yeah, it's connected to this big idea. It doesn't matter if you're in preschool, middle school, high school. We follow a similar cycle of inquiry. Now, what that means in a 6-week period is that everyone's starting the first week, getting hooked into the idea, demanding to know what they want to know about that unit being introduced. We spend 3 weeks on content, small projects, the skills of the unit. In week 5, we stop all normal classes and they build their projects. In week 6, they present their personal or collaborative projects to the entire community. We end every unit with something called reflection and celebration, where we look back.
Yeah.
Well, doing that one time is great. You know, if you're a new student here and you jump in, if you jump into the middle of the school year, you can hop in for 6 weeks and it's great. You get that.
Yeah, we did it and it worked really well.
Right. Doing it repeatedly. This is something that I could really only have theories about when I was younger, but seeing what's happened to these kids is that they're being repeatedly asked to create, to build something fresh.
And they are being asked.
Exactly. And to make something that's personal to them.
Yeah.
And not only that, to present that to the world, right? Which takes a lot of courage.
It does. And
it also allows failure, because if you're gonna really try something that takes a risk, you potentially could bomb, right? And we have to talk to students about how to validate what they're doing, how to show the work, how to talk about process. I think that this community is full of a lot of parents who are risk takers and who are entrepreneurs themselves. And so when they're starting to think about what they want their child to be, they're looking for some way to impart those skills on their kid, and no one really understands how that came to them in school. Often you're taught in school to be uniform.
It's true. We can't deny it. We've had this conversation multiple times. Schools are set up in a way for that factory worker, right? You start the day, you have a break, and you have lunch, and then you have another break, and then you go home. And it's sort of like that punch that card idea. And we wanted to get away from that. We wanted more of this. I mean, there's not a lot of homework either.
Yeah.
We love that. The parents, love that. You know. And I feel like, because I believe, from what I feel, is that they get so much stimulation during the day. They seem to do so much that at the end of the day, the need to follow through is not as high.
You know what I mean? You also want kids to want. You know, I mean, if your child is being forced to do something, and I'm not a person who is going to say that you don't have to do certain things in life. That's why we have to build. We can't be totally free like a lot of these schools that don't have high schools, right? But also, we will go the long route to explain the relevance and the connection for a kid, and we want students eventually to desire them themselves. And a lot of times when you have a child who's young, you think, well, my daughter, she's really precocious, she's an early reader, and so I'm just going to keep her going up, or she's behind and she's lost it. And the truth is, we have these developmental stages where before is not totally predictive of after, particularly things like a change in adolescence, or even as you start to get around 17 and 18. There are not a lot of predictors. Right? We have a lot of families here who their 9-year-old loved everything, came home from school and everything was great. And I love my teacher and I love everything. And then at around 13, tell us what you did at school. Nothing, you know. And they're starting to wonder what happened to that light. That kid is not behind academically. That kid just needs that light lit back up. And they've been taught for years that when they sit in this school, many of the classes that they're doing, the teachers straight up will tell them things like, because you have to, not because it's relevant. And there's a time when all of us as adults can accept that, right? We can go, oh, I have to do this. That's
absolutely. There are times in life, absolutely.
But to be told, you're going to spend the next 6 years of your life like this for some idea, it creates a lot of cynicism about learning. And no one wants to stop learning.
And you want to keep that fire alive forever, because there's so much to learn, right? Even as adults. I mean, we were just talking before we got on camera about all the things we've learned since we moved to the DR. So I know that we have so much more to talk about, but I'm hoping that we can just do a quick walk around for everybody and see what that looks like for them.
Go for it.
Okay, you guys ready? Here we go.